Okay, so graphing quadratic equations. Up to this point, we've been solving them. We've been finding the solutions, factoring them, but we haven't graphed them yet. So just to go over some things before we start, graphing quadratic equations gives you a parabola, is what the shape of the graph is called. It's sort of a U shape, not quite a U, not quite a V. You'll see when we graph it. And you need to have your equation in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, in order to graph it. Now these are functions, so they will have a y. Just, instead of a 0 when we're solving, just put a y. It works the same way, standard form. The axis of symmetry is what's important for graphing. So it is the line straight down the middle of the graph. And so it is the x value of the vertex. And we use the formula negative b over 2a to find that x value. And then similar to graphing absolute value equations, you just find two values below and two values above the AOS or axis of symmetry, make a t-chart, and then graph. So that's what we're going to do here, is first find the AOS and then make a t-chart. One tip, if a, the first coefficient, is positive, the graph opens up, which means it will look like this. And then if b is negative, oh sorry, that should say a. I don't know why it says b. If a is negative, the graph opens down, so it'll look like this. Okay, so let's get started with number one. So first of all, or letter A, check and see, check and see if it is in standard form. And it is. The x squared is first, and the x, then the constant. So we know a is 1. Right, a is 1, b is negative 4, and c is negative 5. So we have to do negative b over 2a. Well, b is negative 4, so negative b is positive 4. A is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. So we have 4 over 2, or 2. That is the x value of the vertex. So that's the middle point. What we're going to do is put that in the middle, and then we're going to choose 2 points above and 2 points below. So 1, 0, and 3, and 4. Okay, and now we just plug these numbers into the original equation for x. But you have to fill it into both spots. Okay, so let's just start with 0. 0 squared is 0. 4 times 0 is also 0. So 0 minus 5, well, that's negative 5. Okay, let's do 1. 1 squared is 1. 4 times 1 is 4, so minus 4 minus 5. 1 minus 4 is negative 3, minus 5 is negative 8. Okay, 2, this is the vertex, the axis of symmetry. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8, so 4 minus 8 minus 5. Negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9. Okay, now 3. 3 squared is 9. Minus 3 times 4 is 12. Minus 5. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. And 4. 4 squared is 16. Minus 16. 4 times 4 is 16. Minus 5 is negative 5. So if you notice, these values, the y values are the same there. The y values are the same here. So we have a symmetrical picture, just like what happened when we graphed absolute value equations a long time ago. So now we just put these graphs, or these points on the graph. 0, negative 5, so 0, then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, negative 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, negative 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, negative 8, right there, and then 4, negative 5, right here. And so the graph makes a nice U shape, if you can graph it nicely. The reason we use 5 points is because if you just have 3, it's going to look like you have straight lines coming out here. but the graph is a curve. Whoops. So you do need to have all 5. And do your best with the graphs. Some of them are kind of close together. There we go. So there you have it. There is our graph. We had a positive a value, positive 1, so it opens up, which it does, it should. So let's move on. First, check and make sure that it's in standard form. It is. Our c value is 0, but that's fine. We don't really need it for this. We need to find negative b over 2a. Well, negative b is negative 1. B is 1 here. So we got negative 1 over 2a. A is negative 4. That'd be negative 8. So we get 1/8 for our AOS. Excuse me. So since our AOS is a fraction, our graph is going to act a little differently here. Because I don't want to work with fractions the whole time, I'm just going to put 1/8 in the middle, and then I'm going to choose the next 2 integers on each side. So 1/8, then if I go down, I'm going to have 0 and negative 1. If I go up, I'm going to have 1 and 2. And because those aren't equally spaced, right? 0 is closer to 1/8 than 1 is. It's not going to be right in these points are not going to be symmetrical. But 1/8 is still going to be the middle of the graph. All right, so now let's fill in our numbers. So negative 1 squared is 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. And then just negative 1 there, so minus 1 equals negative 5. 0, well, 0 just cancels both out, so 0 is going to give us 0. 1/8 is the tricky one here, and you can either use the fraction or honestly, if you go ahead and use a decimal here, 0.125 might make your life easier. So let's use 0.125. Squared is this, times negative 4, okay, negative 0.0625, plus 1/8, so plus 0.125, gives us 0.0625. So we'll just do our best there to approximate where that is on the graph. Do your best. Okay, putting in 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. Plus 1 gives us negative 3. See, these aren't the same numbers this time because we're not the same distance away from 1/8. If I had gone to 2/8, that'd probably give us 0 because that's the same distance away from 1/8, but that's okay. And then 2 here. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. Plus 2 is negative 14. Okay, so if your AOS is a fraction or a decimal, it is going to be a little different. So it's really nice when you have a whole number because then your graph is very symmetrical with your points that you put on. Our graph is still going to be symmetrical, just the points aren't going to be lined up quite as nicely. Okay, so let's graph negative 1, negative 5. So left 1, down 5, right there, 0, 0 here, 0.125, 0.0625, it's practically, somewhere right here in this box, really close to the corner. 1, negative 3, and 2, negative 14. 2, negative 14 is off the graph. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like here. So we're just going to do our best to get our picture. But you can see it's still the same shape, right? It's still a sort of a U shape. And if we had more points, it'd be a little smoother. But it is what it is. Maybe I should have picked a graph with fewer lines on it, but it's okay. So that's the process, right? Step 1, find the AOS, negative b over 2a. That's your vertex point. Pick 2 above, 2 below. Plug them into the original function for x to find y. Plot the points on the graph. Okay? Good luck. Email me if you have questions.